The alien warship loomed menacingly over Earth, its advanced weapons aimed at the defenseless planet below. Captain Lyra sneered at the image of the blue marble on the view screen. These pathetic humans and their primitive planet would soon be crushed under the might of the great Lemnorian Empire. It was the year 2257, and Earth was considered a backwater by the advanced alien civilizations that ruled the stars. Humanity had barely begun to explore their own solar system, let alone make a mark on the galactic stage. To the Lemnorians and other spacefaring races, humans were little more than primitives, a species to be subjugated or ignored. Stephen Foster, a commander in Earth's fledgling space defense force, patrolled the outer reaches of the solar system in an outdated, underpowered ship. It was the best Earth could muster with its limited technology. During a routine mission, Stephen's vessel was ambushed by the Lemnorian warship. The aliens easily disabled the human craft with their superior weapons. Stephen found himself a prisoner aboard the alien ship, subjected to brutal interrogation by Captain Lyra and her crew. They mocked humanity's pitiful attempts at space travel and demanded Earth's unconditional surrender. Stephen gritted his teeth and stayed silent, unwilling to betray his world. But he knew Earth was defenseless against this powerful alien threat. News of Stephen's capture sparked fear and outrage across the human world. The Lemnorian attack was a blatant act of aggression against Earth, but unbeknownst to the arrogant aliens, humanity had an ace up its sleeve. For decades, Earth's brightest minds had been secretly developing the ESS Titan, a warship equipped with cutting-edge technology, reverse-engineered from downed alien craft. As the Lemnorians broadcast their demands and threats, Earth's leaders made a fateful decision. It was time to reveal humanity's true strength. The Titan was deployed on a dual mission: rescue Stephen Foster and show the galaxy that mankind would not be cowed. A tense showdown loomed between the mighty Lemnorian warship and the unassuming but powerful human vessel. The fate of Earth and its place among the stars hung in the balance. The arrogant aliens were about to learn that appearances can be deceiving, and that humanity was no pushover. The battle for the future was about to begin. 1. As the Lemnorian warship loomed menacingly over Earth, the crew of the ESS Titan prepared for their daring rescue mission. Captain Jacob Evans stood on the bridge, his eyes fixed on the interface displaying the alien vessel. The Titan, Earth's most advanced warship, was humanity's last hope against the technologically superior Lemnorians. "Sir, we're approaching the Lemnorian ship," the helmsman reported, his fingers dancing across the control panel. "They've detected us." Captain Evans nodded, his mind focused. "Good. Let them see what we're capable of." On the Lemnorian ship, Captain Lyra's eyes widened in disbelief as she stared at the readings on her console. The human vessel was far more advanced than anything they had encountered before. "How is this possible?" she demanded, turning to her first officer. "These primitives couldn't have developed such technology on their own." In the holding cell, Stephen Foster felt a glimmer of hope as his concealed tracking device began to transmit the Titan's signal. He knew his crewmates would come for him, and he was ready to fight alongside them. Captain Evans initiated the attack, his voice steady as he gave the order. "Deploy the drones." A swarm of sleek, heavily armed drones erupted from the Titan, their cloaking devices rendering them nearly invisible against the starry backdrop. They descended upon the Lemnorian ship like a plague of locusts, their weapons targeting the alien vessel's defenses with surgical precision. Explosions blossomed across the Lemnorian ship's hull as the drones systematically destroyed its weapon systems and engines. Alarms blared throughout the ship, and Lemnorian crew members scrambled to their battle stations, desperate to repel the unexpected assault. Amidst the chaos, Lieutenant Michael Chen led a small team of elite soldiers in exoskeleton suits as they breached the Lemnorian ship's airlock. They stormed through the corridors, their directed energy weapons cutting down Lemnorian soldiers with ruthless efficiency. As they neared Stephen's cell, they were met with fierce resistance. Lemnorian warriors, their armor filled with advanced weaponry, fought back with all their might. The confined space of the ship's corridors became a brutal kill zone, filled with the deafening roar of weapons fire and the cries of the wounded and dying. Lieutenant Chen and his team pushed forward, their exoskeleton suits absorbing the brunt of the enemy fire. They fought with the skill and drive of true warriors, driven by the knowledge that Earth's fate rested on their shoulders. Finally, they reached Stephen's cell, only to find it empty. Stephen emerged from the shadows, a grin on his face as he held up the concealed tool he had used to escape. "What took you guys so long?" he quipped, joining his rescuers in the fight. Together, Stephen and the rescue team battled their way back to the Titan, engaging in intense close-quarters combat with the Lemnorian soldiers. They moved as one, their movements fluid and precise, their weapons finding their marks with deadly accuracy. On the bridge of the Lemnorian ship, Captain Lyra watched in horror as her vessel was torn apart from within. In a last-ditch effort to turn the tide, she gave the order to deploy the Lemnorian secret superweapon, a planet killer capable of wiping out entire worlds. As the massive energy cannon began to charge, Captain Evans realized the gravity of the situation. The Titan's sensors detected the immense power buildup, and he knew that if the weapon was allowed to fire, Earth would be doomed. With no time to lose, Captain Evans made the ultimate sacrifice. He ordered the crew to evacuate, sending Stephen and the rescue team to the escape pods, while he and a skeleton crew remained behind to pilot the Titan on a collision course with the Lemnorian ship. The Titan surged forward, drawing the fire of the energy cannon as it closed in on the alien vessel. The Lemnorian superweapon discharged, its blinding beam of destruction slamming into the Titan's shields. The human ship shuddered under the impact, its hull cracking and blistering as the advanced shielding absorbed the worst of the blast. In a blinding flash of light, the Titan rammed into the Lemnorian ship, and both vessels vanished in a cataclysmic explosion that lit up the void of space. From the escape pods, Stephen and the survivors watched in awe as the fireball consumed the two mighty warships, a testament to the courage and sacrifice of Captain Evans and his crew. The Lemnorians, once arrogant and dismissive of humanity, were left stunned by the humans' bravery and technological prowess. The annihilation of their warship and the failure of their planet-killer weapons shattered their illusions of superiority. The escape pods drifted through the debris field, the remnants of the once mighty Lemnorian warship and the heroic ESS Titan scattered around them. Stephen Foster peered out the viewport, his face a mask of iron will as he watched the last embers of the explosion fade into the void of space. "Set course for Outpost Omega," he ordered, his voice hoarse from the smoke and strain of battle. "We need to regroup and assess our situation." The secret Earth Defense Force outpost, nestled deep within an asteroid field, loomed before them as the escape pods approached. As they docked, Stephen and his battered crew stumbled out, exhaustion etched on their faces. In the medical bay, Stephen winced as a medic treated a nasty gash on his arm. "How many did we lose?" he asked Lieutenant Chen, who sat on a nearby bed nursing a broken leg. Chen's face fell. "Too many, sir. Captain Evans and most of the Titan's crew, they're gone." The weight of their sacrifice settled heavily on Stephen's shoulders. He closed his eyes, allowing himself a moment of grief before the harsh reality of their situation came crashing back. A young communications officer burst into the room, interrupting the somber silence. "Sir, urgent message from Earth Command." Stephen nodded, following the officer to the command center. The holographic display flickered to life, revealing the stern face of Admiral Hawkins, Earth's top military commander. "Commander Foster," Hawkins began, his voice filled with a mix of pride and urgency. "Your actions against the Lemnorian threat have sent shockwaves through the galactic community. Earth owes you and your crew a debt we can never repay." Stephen stood straighter, pushing aside his exhaustion. "Thank you, sir, but the fight isn't over yet." Hawkins nodded gravely. "You're right, which is why, effective immediately, you are promoted to the rank of Admiral. Your new mission, should you choose to accept it, is to lead Operation Vanguard, a fleet of advanced warships based on the Titan's technology." Stephen's mind reeled at the implications. "Sir, I'm honored. But can we really build a fleet capable of standing up to the Lemnorians? We must, Hawkins replied firmly. Earth's very survival depends on it. You'll have unlimited resources at your disposal. The fate of humanity rests in your hands, Admiral Foster. As the transmission ended, Stephen turned to face his battered but determined crew. You heard the man. We've got work to do. Over the next few months, Operation Vanguard took shape. Stephen threw himself into the project, overseeing the construction of a new generation of warships that incorporated the Titan's revolutionary technology. Scientists and engineers from around the world poured their expertise into the effort, pushing the boundaries of human innovation. But even as the first ships of the Vanguard fleet began to take shape, a shadow loomed on the horizon. Earth's intelligence networks buzzed with alarming reports. The Lemnorians were not taking their defeat lying down. In a secure briefing room, Stephen pored over the latest intelligence reports with his top advisors. They're amassing a massive invasion force, he said grimly, pointing to holographic projections of Lemnorian fleet movements, led by some hotshot new commander called Admiral Zarax. Lieutenant Chen, now recovered from his injuries, leaned forward. Our new ships are good, sir, but we're still outnumbered. How can we possibly stand against an invasion force of that size? Stephen's eyes narrowed as he studied the tactical displays. We can't, not in a head-on fight, but if we can take out their command ship. As he outlined his daring plan, Stephen knew the odds were stacked against them. But as he looked around at the faces of his crew, men and women who had already faced impossible odds and emerged victorious, he felt a glimmer of hope. The fate of Earth hung in the balance, and humanity's last best hope rested on the shoulders of Admiral Stephen Foster and his ragtag band of survivors turned heroes. Stephen Foster stood face-to-face with Admiral Zara on the bridge of the Lemnorian flagship Leviathan. The alien commander's eyes gleamed with malice as he sneered at the human. Your pathetic attempts to stop us are futile, human, Zara spat. Soon Earth will be nothing but cosmic dust. Stephen met Zara's gaze unflinchingly. I wouldn't be so sure about that. Zara's antennae twitched in irritation. And why is that? Because while we've been having this lovely chat, my team has already disabled your superweapon, Stephen replied with a smirk. Rage contorted Zara's features. He whirled to his crew, barking orders. Find those human vermin and kill them! Alarms blared throughout the ship as Lemnorian security forces mobilized. Stephen's hand flew to his earpiece. Team, time to go loud. On cue, explosions rocked the Leviathan. Stephen's saboteurs had rigged key systems to blow, sowing chaos throughout the massive vessel. Lemnorian guards poured onto the bridge, weapons drawn. Stephen and his soldiers sprang into action, their exoskeleton suits amplifying their strength and speed. Stephen ducked under a swing from a Lemnorian's energy blade, the weapon sizzling as it passed over his head. He countered with a devastating uppercut that sent the alien flying. Around him, his team fought with lethal efficiency. Private Jenkins grappled with two Lemnorians at once, using his suit's enhanced strength to slam their heads together with a sickening crunch. Sergeant Reeves provided covering fire, her pulse rifle cutting down Lemnorians left and right. Sir, we can't hold them off forever. Stephen nodded, dispatching another guard with a well-placed kick. Working on it! He fought his way to the main console, fingers flying over the alien controls. The bridge crew lay incapacitated around him, a testament to the fury of the human assault. Got it! Stephen shouted triumphantly as he accessed the ship's systems. But his victory was short-lived. Zara's voice rang out, filled with mad desperation. If I can't have this ship, no one will. Stephen's eyes widened as warning klaxons sounded. He's initiated the self-destruct sequence. As Stephen's team scrambled to evacuate, Zara slipped away in the chaos, escaping in a pod with a final threat. This isn't over, human. Stephen ushered his soldiers to the teleportation chamber. Everyone in now. They materialized on the bridge of the ESS Defiant moments later, startling Captain Marcus Ryder. Admiral on deck, Ryder exclaimed, snapping to attention. At ease, Marcus, Stephen said, moving to the tactical display. We've got bigger problems. There's a Lemnorian dreadnought on a collision course with Earth. Ryder's face hardened with purpose. Not if we have anything to say about it. Helm, set an intercept course. Weapons, ready all systems. The Defiant surged forward, its advanced engines propelling it towards the threat. As they closed in, the massive Lemnorian ship came into view on the main screen. "Sir, they're hailing us," the comms officer reported. The sneering face of Admiral Krav appeared on screen. "Stand aside, humans. Your planet's doom is at hand." Steven stepped forward. "I don't think so, Krav. You're outgunned and outmatched. Stand down now." Krav's only response was to cut the transmission. "They're powering weapons," the tactical officer shouted. "Evasive maneuvers," Ryder ordered. The Defiant danced through space, its superior technology allowing it to avoid the Lemnorians' onslaught while delivering punishing blows of its own. Steven gripped the command chair as the ship shuddered under enemy fire. "Status report." "Shields holding at 80%, sir," came the response. "Their weapons can't penetrate our defenses." Ryder grinned. "Time to show them what we can do. Target their primary weapons array and fire." The Defiant's main cannon blazed to life, a lance of energy that cut through the Lemnorian ship's shields like they weren't even there. On the interface, explosions blossomed across the enemy vessel's hull. But instead of retreating, it suddenly accelerated towards them. "They're on a ramming course," Ryder shouted. Steven's mind raced. "Marcus, their engines, take them out." Ryder nodded sharply. "You heard the Admiral. All weapons, target their engine core. Fire!" The Defiant unleashed its full arsenal. Precision-guided missiles and energy beams struck the Lemnorian dreadnought's engines in a devastating barrage. The massive ship veered off course, trailing debris and venting atmosphere. Its momentum carried it past the Defiant, straight towards a nearby moon. The crew watched in awe as the dreadnought impacted the lunar surface in a cataclysmic explosion. As the dust settled, sensors showed the remaining Lemnorian ships in full retreat. Steven stepped up to the comms station. "Open a channel to all Lemnorian vessels." He took a deep breath, his voice ringing with authority as he addressed the fleeing invaders. "This is Admiral Stephen Foster of the Earth Defense Force. Your invasion has failed. Your leaders are dead or in retreat. You have one choice. Surrender unconditionally, or be destroyed. The Vanguard fleet stands ready to carry out this threat. You have 10 minutes to comply." As the ultimatum was transmitted, Steven turned to Ryder. "Well, Marcus, looks like the ball's in their court now." Ryder nodded grimly. "Let's hope they make the right choice, sir. For their sake." The Lemnorian fleet scattered across the void of space, their once mighty armada now reduced to a disorganized rabble. Admiral Stephen Foster stood on the bridge of the ESS Defiant, his eyes fixed on the tactical display. The retreating enemy ships blinked red on the holographic projection, each one a potential threat if left unchecked. "We can't let them regroup," Stephen said, his voice low but firm. "If we give them time to lick their wounds, they'll be back with a vengeance." Captain Marcus Ryder nodded in agreement. "What's the plan, sir?" Stephen's fingers danced across the control panel, pulling up intelligence reports and strategic assessments. "We hit them where it hurts, their supply lines." He brought up a galactic map, dotted with glowing points representing Lemnorian supply depots. "These outposts are the backbone of their war machine. We take them out, we cripple their ability to wage war." Over the next few hours, Stephen outlined his plan to the fleet's top officers. Strike teams were assembled, each assigned to a specific depot. As the briefing concluded, Stephen addressed his gathered commanders. "This won't be easy," he said, his gaze sweeping across the room. "But it's necessary. For Earth. For humanity's future among the stars." The officers nodded, their faces set with quiet purpose. Days later, Captain Marcus Ryder crouched in the shadows of a massive Lemnorian supply depot. The air around him shimmered slightly, the only visible sign of the advanced cloaking technology that rendered him and his team invisible to Lemnorian sensors. "Status report," Marcus whispered into his comm unit. "All clear, sir," came the hushed reply. "No sign they've detected us." Marcus nodded, though none of his team could see the gesture. "Move out. Remember, we're ghosts, in and out without a trace. The team crept through the sprawling facility, their footsteps silent on the alien metal floors. They passed towering racks of weaponry and rows of sleek Lemnorian fighters, all prime targets for their mission. At last, they reached the central control hub. Marcus pulled a small device from his pack, an electromagnetic pulse generator of human design. He placed it carefully against the main console, arming the device with practiced ease. "Charge is set," he reported. "Let's move to the next target." Across the galaxy, Lieutenant Michael Chen took a different approach. The ESS Thunderbolt dropped out of hyperspace directly in front of another Lemnorian depot, its weapons already charging. "All batteries, open fire," Chen barked. The Thunderbolt unleashed a devastating barrage, its advanced weaponry tearing through the depot's outer defenses with minimal resistance. Lemnorian fighters scrambled to respond, but they were too slow, too disorganized. As the enemy forces rallied, Chen gave his next order. "Launch sabotage drones. Target their internal systems." A swarm of sleek black drones shot from the Thunderbolt's launch bays. They zipped past the confused Lemnorian defenders, slipping into the depot through breaches in its hull. Inside, they sought out critical systems, attaching explosive charges to power conduits and computer cores. Chen watched the battle unfold on his tactical display, a grim smile on his face. That ought to put a dent in their war effort. Week after week, the pattern repeated. Human strike teams hit Lemnorian depots across the galaxy, leaving destruction and chaos in their wake. Shipyards fell silent, their automated systems fried by electromagnetic pulses. Vast stockpiles of weapons and resources went up in flames, depriving the Lemnorians of the tools they needed to continue the fight. But the enemy wasn't finished yet. Deep in Lemnorian space, Admiral Vrek, a hardened veteran of 100 battles, rallied the remaining ships under his command. "The humans think they've won," he snarled to his bridge crew. "We'll show them the true might of the Lemnorian Empire." Vrek's fleet surged forward, aiming straight for the heart of human-controlled space. But Stephen Foster was ready for them. "Decoy fleet, move into position," Stephen ordered from the bridge of the Defiant. "Let's give Admiral Vrek something to chase." A group of unmanned ships, broadcasting false energy signatures to mimic a human battle group, moved to intercept Vrek's fleet. The Lemnorian commander took the bait, ordering his ships to pursue what he thought was an easy target. As Vrek's fleet entered the designated kill zone, Stephen gave the order. "All ships decloak and engage." The real Vanguard fleet materialized around the Lemnorians, their weapons already locked on target. The battle was short and brutal. Human energy weapons sliced through Lemnorian hulls, while advanced shield technology shrugged off return fire. Stephen watched as Vrek's flagship, its engines crippled and weapons offline, drifted helplessly in space. "Open a channel," he ordered. Vrek's face appeared on the display, his alien features twisted with rage and defeat. "Admiral Vrek," Stephen said, his voice level, "your fleet is destroyed. Your supply lines are in ruins. Surrender now and spare what's left of your forces." For a long moment, Vrek glared at Stephen. Then, slowly, the fight seemed to drain out of him. "We surrender," he growled. As the remaining Lemnorian ships powered down their weapons, a cheer went up on the Defiance bridge. Stephen allowed himself a small smile. They had won. Weeks later, the Vanguard fleet returned to Earth in triumph. Crowds cheered as Stephen and his officers made their way through the streets of New. The cheers of the crowd faded as Stephen Foster stepped off the podium, his mind already racing with plans for humanity's future. The victory parade was barely over, yet the weight of responsibility pressed down on him once more. In a secure conference room deep within Earth's defense headquarters, Stephen faced his top advisors. "We've won the war, but our work is just the beginning," he said, activating a holographic display. "Our resources are stretched thin. We need a new strategy to secure our place among the stars." Admiral Chen leaned forward, her eyes scanning the data before her. "What do you propose, sir?" Stephen's fingers danced across the controls, bringing up a detailed schematic. "This is Vanguard Station, a self-sustaining orbital habitat capable of housing thousands and supporting a significant military presence. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. Finally, General Rodriguez spoke up. The cost would be astronomical. Where would we even build such a thing? The asteroid belt, Stephen replied. We'll mine the raw materials we need right there. It's the perfect location, far enough from Earth to be defensible, yet close enough to serve as a staging ground for future exploration. Over the next few months, Earth's finest minds poured their efforts into the Vanguard Station project. In a sprawling facility near the Olympus Mons on Mars, Dr. Eliza Thorne hunched over her workstation, her fingers flying across holographic interfaces as she fine-tuned the station's life support systems. How's it coming, Eliza? Stephen asked, stepping into the lab. Eliza looked up, dark circles under her eyes betraying countless sleepless nights. We're making progress. The atmospheric recyclers are now operating at 98% efficiency. And look at this. She pulled up a new schematic. We've adapted the Defiance shield technology to create a protective barrier around the entire station. Stephen nodded approvingly. Excellent work. But remember, we're not just building a fortress. This station needs to be a symbol of hope, a new beginning for humanity. As construction began in earnest, Stephen turned his attention to staffing the station. In a sterile white room, he sat across from Sarah Reeves, a former Marine Corps sniper. Your combat record is impressive, Stephen said, reviewing her file. But Vanguard Station isn't just a military installation. Why do you want to be part of this? Sarah met his gaze steadily. Sir, I've seen what's out there, the threats we face, but I've also seen the wonders of the universe. I want to be part of building something new, something that represents the best of humanity. Stephen smiled. That's exactly what we're looking for. Thousands of similar interviews took place as Stephen handpicked the station's inaugural crew and colonists. Each candidate was rigorously screened, ensuring only the most qualified and dedicated individuals would shape humanity's future in space. But even as Vanguard Station took shape, a new threat loomed. In the dimly lit command center of the ESS Vigilant, Captain Marcus Ryder frowned at the intel report before him. It's confirmed, sir, Lieutenant Chen said, his voice tight. Admiral Vrek escaped our final assault. He's rallied a significant portion of the remaining Lemnorian forces. Ryder's eyebrows furrowed. And Vanguard Station is still vulnerable. We can't let them strike first. He turned to his crew. Prep for immediate departure. We're going hunting. The Vigilant slipped silently through the void of space, its advanced stealth systems rendering it invisible to Lemnorian sensors. After days of painstaking search, they found their quarry. My God, Chen whispered as the massive Lemnorian shipyard came into view. At its heart, a colossal dreadnought took shape, dwarfing even the largest human vessels. Ryder's mind raced, assessing their options. A frontal assault would be suicide. Then his eyes fell on a captured Lemnorian shuttle in their hangar bay. A plan began to form. Hours later, Ryder led a small team of operatives towards the incomplete dreadnought. Their shuttle, transmitting false Lemnorian codes, slipped past the shipyard's defenses undetected. As they made their way through the cavernous interior of the vessel, planting explosive charges at key junctions, Ryder's comm crackled to life. Sir, we've been made. Security teams converging on our position. Ryder's hand flew to his weapon. All teams, fall back to the extraction point. Chen, blow the charges now. The dreadnought shuddered as explosions ripped through its systems. Alarms blared as Ryder and his team fought their way back to their shuttle, Lemnorian energy bolts sizzling past their heads. As they escaped the crippled dreadnought, Ryder gave the order. All ships, engage! Take out those Lemnorian vessels while they're disorganized. The space around the shipyard erupted in a furious battle. Human ships, their technology now superior to their Lemnorian counterparts, methodically picked apart the enemy fleet. On the bridge of his flagship, Admiral Vrek watched in impotent rage as his forces crumbled around him. Enough, he snarled, hitting his fist on the comm panel. This is Admiral Vrek to all Lemnorian ships. We surrender. With the Lemnorian threat neutralized, construction on Vanguard Station accelerated. Stephen Foster stood in the station's vast central hub, surrounded by a forest of advanced technology and the bustle of final preparations. "Shield systems online and at full power," a technician reported. "Weapons arrays calibrated and ready." Stephen nodded, his eyes sweeping across the gleaming interior. This was more than just a space station. It was humanity's future, their first true step into the stars. As the inaugural crew assembled before him, Stephen's eyes scanned the holographic display, his face illuminated by the eerie glow of countless data points. Each one represented a Kravek incursion, a conquered world, a subjugated species. The pattern was clear, a relentless march towards human space. "This can't continue," he said, his voice tight. "We need to strike first." Admiral Chen leaned in, studying the map. "The Kravek are formidable, sir. Their ships match ours in firepower and shields." "Then we'll have to be smarter," Stephen replied. He tapped a command, zooming in on a sector near the fringe of known space. "Captain Ryder, I want you to take a task force here. Find their supply lines, their staging areas. We need to hit them where it hurts." Ryder nodded, his face set with focus. "Understood, sir. We'll make them regret ever crossing into our space." Days later, Ryder's team crept through the corridors of a Kravek space station. The air was thick with an alien stench, a mix of ammonia and something distinctly reptilian. They moved silently, their advanced stealth gear rendering them nearly invisible. "Over here," whispered Corporal Harris, gesturing to a data terminal. Ryder watched as Harris plugged in a decryption device, lines of alien code scrolling across its screen. Suddenly, Harris's eyes widened. "Sir, you need to see this." Ryder leaned in, studying the intel. A massive shipyard, hidden deep within a nebula. The linchpin of the Kravek war machine. "We can't take this on alone," Ryder muttered. He tapped his comm unit. "Vanguard Station, this is Ryder. We need reinforcements, big ones." Back on Vanguard Station, Stephen assembled his strike force. The newly commissioned ESS Harbinger loomed in the docking bay, its sleek lines belying its immense firepower. "This is our chance to deal a crippling blow to the Kravek," Stephen addressed the assembled crews. "But make no mistake, this will be the fight of our lives." As the human fleet approached the nebula, chaos erupted. Kravek ships burst from hidden positions, energy beams slicing through space. "Evasive maneuvers!" Stephen shouted as the Harbinger rocked from a near miss. Fighter squadrons poured from the hangar bays, engaging in a frantic dogfight with the reptilian ships. Lieutenant Chen's fighter spun through the melee, his targeting computer locking onto a Kravek vessel. He squeezed the trigger, watching with satisfaction as his shots tore through the enemy's hull. But his victory was short-lived. A blast from a Kravek cruiser caught his wing, sending him spiraling towards a nearby moon. "Mayday! Mayday!" Chen called out as he fought to control his descent. The fighter slammed into the lunar surface, skidding across the dusty ground before coming to a stop. Chen stumbled out, linking up with other survivors. They were stranded, cut off from the main battle. Meanwhile, the Harbinger pushed deeper into the nebula, its advanced sensors piercing the cosmic fog. The Kravek shipyard loomed before them, a massive construct overflowing with weapons. "All batteries, open fire," Stephen ordered. The Harbinger's guns roared to life, pounding the shipyard's outer defenses. Swarms of drones and boarding shuttles launched, pushing towards the facility. On the moon's surface, Chen and his team worked frantically to repair a crashed Kravek transport. "If we can get this thing airborne," Chen said, wiping sweat from his brow, "we might just have a chance to rejoin the fight." Back at the shipyard, human boarding parties poured into the facility, engaging in fierce close-quarters combat with the Kravek defenders. Stephen led from the front, his energy rifle spitting death as they fought their way towards the control center. Just as victory seemed within reach, alarms blared throughout the station. "Self-destruct sequence initiated," an alien voice announced. "Everyone out," Stephen shouted, coordinating the frantic evacuation. Chen and his team, having successfully hijacked the Kravek transport, raced through the facility's defenses, planting charges as they went. In a desperate scramble, the human forces piled into whatever ships they could find. The Harbinger's engines strained as it pulled away from the doomed shipyard. Behind them, the facility erupted in a massive explosion, the shockwave buffeting their retreating ships. As the battered human fleet limped back to Vanguard Station, Stephen knew this was only the beginning. The Kravek threat had been bloodied, but far from defeated. Humanity's struggle for survival among the stars had entered a new, more dangerous phase. The acrid smell of burnt circuitry filled the air as Stephen Foster strode through the damaged corridors of Vanguard Station. Emergency lights flickered, casting eerie shadows on the walls. He entered the command center, where a sea of worried faces turned to him. "Sir, we've intercepted Lemnorian communications," Lieutenant Chen reported, his voice tight. "It's worse than we thought." Stephen leaned over the holographic display, studying the data scrolling across the screen. His eyes widened as he processed the information. "They've allied with the Kravek," he muttered, the gravity of the situation sinking in. Admiral Chen stepped forward, her face grim. A combined fleet of that size, Earth wouldn't stand a chance. Stephen straightened up, his mind racing. "Gather the council. We need to act fast." Hours later, the emergency summit convened in Vanguard Station's main conference room. Representatives from various human colonies and allied species filled the seats, their faces etched with concern. "We should strike first," shouted the Martian ambassador, banging his head on the table. "Hit them before they can organize." The lunar representative shook her head. "Madness. We should focus on fortifying our defenses. Let them come to us." As the debate raged on, Captain Marcus Ryder slipped into the room, catching Stephen's eye. He nodded towards the door, and Stephen discreetly excused himself. In a secluded alcove, Ryder spoke in hushed tones. "Sir, we've uncovered something big. The Lemnorian Kravik Alliance is building a weapon in the Gamma Quadrant, something that could wipe out entire planets." Stephen's blood ran cold. "How sure are you?" "Absolutely certain," Ryder replied. "We intercepted transmissions, corroborated by multiple sources. They're calling it a doomsday weapon." Stephen's mind raced, weighing the options. The Council's indecision could cost them everything. He made his decision. Striding back into the conference room, Stephen's voice cut through the chaos. "Enough! We don't have time for debate. I'm authorizing an immediate strike on the enemy shipyard." Protests erupted, but Stephen held up his hand. "The ESS Harbinger will lead the assault. We leave in 6 hours." As the council dispersed, Stephen turned to Ryder. "Assemble your crew. You're coming with us." The next day, the Harbinger and its escort ships pushed through the inky blackness of space, their engines glowing blue against the starfield. On the bridge, Stephen studied the tactical display, his face illuminated by the holographic readouts. Suddenly, alarms blared. "Multiple contacts!" shouted the sensor officer. "Kravek patrol fleet dead ahead." "Evasive maneuvers," Stephen ordered, gripping the arms of his chair as the ship lurched. Energy beams lanced through space, striking the human ships. The ESS Valiant, Ryder's vessel, took a direct hit to its engines. "We're losing power," Ryder's voice crackled over the comm. "We can't stay in the fight." Stephen gritted his teeth. "Fall back to the nearby moon. We'll continue the assault." As the Valiant limped away, the Harbinger pressed on, its weapons blazing. Stephen watched the battle unfold, knowing that every second brought the enemy closer to completing their doomsday weapon. On the moon's surface, Ryder and his crew stumbled from the smoking wreckage of their ship. The harsh landscape stretched out before them, barren and unforgiving. "Movement!" called out one of the Marines, raising his rifle. From behind a nearby ridge, a group of aliens emerged. Their scaled skin and sharp features marked them as Lemnorians. Both groups raised their weapons, a tense standoff. Then a Lemnorian stepped forward, lowering his gun. "We mean you no harm," he said in halting English. "We, too, are stranded here." Ryder hesitated, then lowered his own weapon. "Why should we trust you?" The Lemnorian's eyes narrowed. Because we share a common enemy now, the Kravek betrayed us, used us, and now they build a weapon that threatens us all. Ryder exchanged glances with his team. An uneasy alliance began to form. Back at the shipyard, the Harbinger engaged the facility's defenses. Energy beams crisscrossed space, explosions blooming silently in the void. "Shields at 60%, shouted the tactical officer. Stephen's eyes darted across the displays. "Keep pressing the attack. We need to buy Ryder's team time to infiltrate." Inside the sprawling shipyard, Ryder led his makeshift team through dimly lit corridors. Lemnorian defectors guided them past security checkpoints, their knowledge of the facility proving invaluable. As they rounded a corner, they came face to face with a Kravek patrol. Time seemed to slow as both sides reached for their weapons. Chaos erupted in the narrow hallway. Energy bolts sizzled through the air as Ryder and his team dove for cover. The acrid smell of ozone filled the air as their return fire found its mark, dropping several Kravek soldiers. "This way!" shouted one of the Lemnorians, gesturing towards a side passage. They sprinted down the corridor, the sounds of pursuit echoing behind them. Emerging onto a vast observation deck, Ryder's team skidded to a halt. Before them loomed the massive form of the Doomsday weapon, its surface dripping with energy emitters and strange alien technology. And there, overseeing the final stages of assembly, stood Admiral Zara and a group of Kravek commanders. Zara's eyes widened in shock as she spotted the intruders. "Kill them!" she screamed, drawing her own weapon. The observation deck erupted into a furious firefight. Ryder and his team ducked behind consoles and equipment, exchanging fire with the Lemnorian and Kravek forces. "We need to reach those control systems," Ryder shouted over the din, pointing to a bank of computers near the weapon. A Lemnorian defector nodded, tossing Ryder a small device. "This will overload the reactor, but you'll need to get close." Ryder's mind raced, formulating a plan. "Cover me!" he yelled, then sprinted towards the weapon's controls. Energy bolts sizzled past him as he ran, the air thick with the smell of burnt ozone. He dove the last few feet, sliding behind the control panel. His fingers flew over the alien interface, following the Lemnorian's instructions. Warning klaxons began to blare throughout the facility. "It's done!" Ryder shouted. "Everyone out, now!" As they fought their way back to their entry point, the entire shipyard began to shudder. Explosions rocked the structure, and panels blew out from overloading systems. Ryder's team sprinted through collapsing corridors, barely staying ahead of the spreading destruction. They reached their commandeered shuttle just as the facility's superstructure began to buckle. As they blasted away from the doomed shipyard, Ryder watched through the viewport as the massive installation was consumed in a blinding flash of energy. The shuttle shuddered as it pushed through the expanding shockwave, linking up with the retreating human fleet. Behind them, the shipyard and its doomsday weapon were reduced to scattered debris. Aboard the Harbinger, Stephen breathed a sigh of relief as Ryder's team docked safely. The immediate threat had been neutralized, but he knew the war was nowhere near the end. As the battered human fleet limped back towards Vanguard Station, Stephen began composing the speech he would give to the weary troops. They had won a significant victory, but greater challenges lay ahead. The survival of Earth and its colonies would depend on their ability to forge new alliances and uncover the true extent of the enemy's plans. The command center of Vanguard Station buzzed with activity as Admiral Stephen Foster pored over the latest intelligence reports. His eyes stung from lack of sleep, but he pushed through the fatigue. A message flashed on his personal comm unit, its encryption unlike anything he'd seen before. Foster's brow furrowed as he decrypted the message. The contents made his blood run cold. He tapped his comm link. "Captain Ryder, Lieutenant Chen, my office, now." Minutes later, the two officers entered. Foster wasted no time. "We've received a communication from a Lemnorian dissident group. They claim to have critical information about the Alliance's true plans." Ryder leaned forward. "Sir, with all due respect, this could be a trap." Foster nodded. "I'm aware of the risks, but if what they're saying is true, We can't afford to ignore it. We're meeting them on Tizora. Chen's eyes widened. Tizora? That's deep in contested space. Which is why we're going in under diplomatic cover, Foster replied. Prep a shuttle. We leave in an hour. The journey to Tizora was tense. Their shuttle emerged from FTL on the outskirts of the system, its hull painted with neutral markings. As they approached the rendezvous coordinates, a voice crackled over the comm. Human vessel, this is Xylith. Maintain your current heading. Foster exchanged glances with Ryder and Chen. Moments later, a sleek Lemnorian craft shimmered into view, its adaptive camouflage deactivating. They docked in a derelict orbital station. Foster's hand rested on his sidearm as the airlock cycled open. A tall, willowy figure stood before them, flanked by other Lemnorians. Admiral Foster, the lead Lemnorian said, his voice resonant. I am Xylith. Thank you for coming. Foster studied the alien's face. You said you had information about the Alliance's plans. Xylith's expression darkened. What I'm about to tell you will change everything you thought you knew about this war. For the next hour, Xylith laid out the horrifying truth. The Xenu device, the hidden outpost, the Alliance's true endgame. Foster's mind raced. If what you're saying is true, we need to act fast. Xylith nodded. My people will provide whatever support we can. But you must understand, Admiral, if we fail to stop them, no world will be safe. Back aboard Vanguard Station, Foster addressed his senior staff. The situation is dire but not hopeless. We need to forge alliances with every faction willing to stand against this threat. He turned to Ryder and Chen. I'm putting together a strike team. Your mission is to infiltrate the outpost and neutralize the Xenu device before the Alliance can acquire it. Ryder squared his shoulders. We won't let you down, sir. As the meeting adjourned, Foster gazed out at the stars. The weight of countless worlds rested on their shoulders. He knew the coming battle would test them all, but failure was not an option. The fate of the galactic realm hung in the balance. The Coalition fleet surged toward the hidden outpost, a swarm of ships cutting through the inky void of space. Admiral Stephen Foster stood on the bridge of the ESS Harbinger, his eyes fixed on the tactical display. The enemy's defensive line loomed ahead, a wall of Lemnorian and Kravek vessels overflowing with weapons. All ships, engage at will, Foster ordered, his voice steady despite the tension coiling in his gut. The space between the fleets erupted in a firestorm of energy beams and missiles. The Harbinger shuddered as it took a direct hit to its forward shields. Shields at 80%, Admiral, the tactical officer reported. Foster nodded, scanning the battlefield. Press the attack. We need to keep them occupied while Ryder's team infiltrates the outpost. Deep within the fortified structure, Captain Marcus Ryder led his strike team through dimly lit corridors. The acrid smell of ozone filled the air as they disabled security systems and neutralized enemy patrols. Chen, status on those power relays, Ryder whispered into his comm. Almost there, Lieutenant Michael Chen replied, his fingers flying over an alien console. Just need to... Got it. Main power grid is down. The lights flickered and died, plunging the corridor into darkness. Ryder's team activated their night vision, ghostly green outlines revealing the path ahead. They rounded a corner and found themselves face to face with a towering Kravek warrior. Scales glinted in the low light as the alien's lips pulled back in a snarl. Vraksh! One of Ryder's men hissed, recognizing the infamous commander. Vraksh charged, his massive form barreling toward them. Ryder and his team opened fire, but their energy weapons seemed to barely slow the Kravek's advance. Exosuits now! Ryder shouted. With a series of clicks and whirs, their combat armor expanded, hydraulics hissing as they prepared for close-quarters combat. Vraksh slammed into Ryder, sending him crashing into a wall. The captain's exosuit absorbed most of the impact, but he felt ribs crack under the strain. He lashed out with an armored fist, catching the Kravek under its jaw. Around them, the corridor erupted into chaos. Human soldiers grappled with Kravek guards, the sound of metal striking scales echoing off the walls. Chen ducked under a swipe from a Kravek's claws, retaliating with a swift kick to its knee. The alien stumbled, and Chen pressed his advantage, driving an elbow into its throat. But for every Kravik they took down, two more seemed to appear. The humans found themselves slowly pushed back, their advanced technology barely keeping pace with the sheer ferocity of their reptilian foes. Ryder felt his strength fading as Raksh pummeled his exosuit. Warning lights flashed across his HUD, indicating multiple system failures. Just as it seemed the tide of battle was turning against them, a familiar voice crackled over the comm. "Hold on, humans, cavalry's here." A group of lithe, scaled figures materialized at the end of the corridor. Xylith and his Lemnorian rebels had arrived, their adaptive camouflage shimmering as they decloaked. The Lemnorians unleashed a barrage of suppressing fire, forcing the Kravik to seek cover. Ryder seized the opportunity, activating his suit's emergency power reserves to break free from Vraksh's grip. "Thanks for the assist," Ryder gasped, falling back to regroup with his team. Xylith nodded, his alien features set in a grim expression. "We must hurry. The Xenu device cannot fall into their hands." With renewed vigor, the combined human and Lemnorian forces pushed forward, fighting their way deeper into the outpost. The central chamber lay ahead, and with it, the key to ending this war once and for all.
You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel, and for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.